Next session is about whether you can build a billion-dollar business targeting the Indian SME. And I'm going to have some two very interesting people who have been there, done that on stage. So, Shravan was from Tally Solutions, right? And Vinay Gupta from VR.com. Both companies you have heard of and probably bought from, right? So that's where we're going to start. If you don't mind, I'll give them a minute to kind of settle down. I need space to walk amidst the audience, so can you please settle down? You guys are the third panelist. Okay. Makes life easier. All right. You have a label mics? Good. Nice. All right. Can you close the back door, please? At least try to. Okay. So what we're going to do, like I said earlier, this session is about whether you can build a billion-dollar business selling to the Indian SME. And like I said before, we have two people who have done exactly that. We've all heard about Tally, we've all heard about VR. So we're going to talk about what it takes, what the challenges are, what the advantages are, what's the good, what's the bad, right? To begin with, by the way, the format is, I don't have much to contribute. I haven't done that yet, right? So I'm going to be the journalist here. And you guys are going to be my third panelist. I'm going to come in, get opinions, questions from you all through the next 1 hour. So this is about RES engagement here, right? These guys are the expert commentators. So we're going to start first with, getting some brief background, put context to the two of them, what they do, how they got there, so on and so forth. And then we're going to talk about some of the key issues in their minds. And at each of these points, I'll come back and talk to you guys about it, right? So to start us off, sure, tell us something about where you are, how you got here.
Okay. Thanks, Kishore. I think it's a fantastic opportunity for me to give a little bit of a insight about what currently we have been doing. But more importantly, and I think a lot of value for everybody here would be to understand the journey and to understand what individually as an entrepreneur you are currently maybe going through, which I have seen over the last 20, 23, 25 years. It was in 1988, 89, when there was a company, Qtronics Financial Accounting, and my own company, which was Veda Automations. When I saw the product, we were developing similar products for accounting, I realized that it's important for me to build around the accounting space. And at that point in time, I developed a retail accounting or retail management software. In the journey over the last 15 years, not including the 5 years I've been in Tally, of course I never dreamt that I'd be sitting here and talking on behalf of Tally Solutions at that point in time. But the context was that yes, when we started the product, we believed that every retailer should be able to use our software. The huge opportunity and the technology was just about evolving. So we innovated, we brought barcode technology to the country, and we did a lot of good things. But somewhere along the way, and I think now in hindsight, it's because we didn't have people with adequate maturity and mentoring. We did not do the right things as far as product is concerned. We went in and diluted the product by becoming more of a services company built around the product. And that happened fundamentally because we left our core constituency, which is the SME retailer. We started looking at the organized retail, and while they gave us immediate business and service opportunities, what happened was that our product got diluted. Somewhere along the way, the need to survive from short-term execution and short-term strategies got the better of us. And I think, and now after working in Tally for 5 years, I've got a much better understanding of what it takes. So that's the journey and that's the context.
But to complete that picture, your product went on to become a Tally offering.
Yeah. Yes, the product today continues and is doing well with the Tally solution product offering. And what we see as a future is that Tally itself, and I can talk more about that later, is that when we merged, multiple elements were discussed as what we need to do as a company together. And one of the key elements is how we could go to market together, which is very, very critical, besides the technology piece. And both elements are today possible. And today, what Tally is offering to the complete marketplace is that possibility. So we, as a real-life internal example, are making sure that these two things come to life.
Vinay, on your side, though, you started much later and stuck onto something big. Can you take us through that?
So hi, I'm Vinay. About 6 years back, I returned to India. I was in Wall Street for a couple of years, and more than a couple of years. And I was a technology and sort of a finance guy, and all sort of, not very good at all, right? And when we came back, when I came back, one of the key things that I saw was lots of pieces in India was moving around 2005 and 6, right? India was really, like when you shake something, before, it starts to gather cream, that's the stage at which India was. And the whole idea was who's going to get the cream, right? And then somewhere you need to focus on the shaking mix as to when does the cream come and what do you need to do to be able to, get a pie of that. And when we looked at the opportunities that were happening in the Indian space, right? I was an avid reader of Economic Times every day, and I saw that a lot of pieces in real estate and aviation were moving. Lots of pieces were coming together, huge investments by people who wanted to fly, people, which came from Deccan, people who wanted to build more hotels. There was huge investments from tourism. Incredible India was taking off. So there was a lot of stuff happening. Similarly, in the real estate sector, all of you can, relate with what was happening at that time. So one of the biggest things what was my learning in my entire career is, nobody has the energy to ride the wave, right? Nobody has the energy to go up that much. If you actually ride the wave can take you there, right? And that's exactly what we did in travel. And my fundamental belief I was sharing with Kishore and Shoaib also is that we were very hung up about what are the macroeconomic factors and what are the segment economics. That means within the all mix, what was shaking in that bottle in the travel mix was very important for us. And how do we keep like razor sharp on saying, this is what we want to do. So at that time in 2005 and 6, there were multiple VCs, world-class VCs who funded Make My Trip, Yatra, Clear Trip, Travel Guru, and there was hardly any name in global VC space which did not jump on it to say we want a pie of that entire business. And when we were looking at that, we found that India is a very long tail, when you look at it, because the wealth is distributed in hundreds of cities, right? I mean, there is a growing middle class, there is a wealth which is across the nation, right? And then, the big question is that most of it is cash economy, right? And these are the macroeconomic factors, if you see, within the segment, right? To say, what is it going to take to tap this segment, right? How do I reach this segment? How do we market to this segment? How do we basically communicate with this segment if we reach with them on a daily basis? How do we build a platform which is going to be able to cater to that transaction? And then fundamentally, how are you going to be able to scale it and build it into a massive company, right? And those were the things that we had looked at, and then we put a very simple model together. We actually built, if all of you have heard of Google, we're kind of a Google in the travel space. Because what Google did for the long tail small businesses in the advertising world, we did pretty much the same thing for the long tail small businesses in the travel world. So there is, and unfortunately for us, there were many challenges because between Amit and I, who, he's here somewhere in the room, it's too dark, I can't see him. So when we used to discuss, so the only thing we had was no capital. The only thing we had was no domain knowledge of travel industry. The only thing we had was, a very faint idea of what the actual Indian geography looked like on the actual ground, not on the map, right? All the data we got was from Maps of India, thanks to them. So, so basically, if you really see, the unknowns are large when you're starting out, and most likely the unknowns are so many that they can overwhelm you. And I think so we went about systematically saying, and the biggest unknown was we were talking about a segment which globally neither Expedia had tapped nor Priceline, so none of the VCs understood that, right? Because typically it's very easy to relate to a model that is running elsewhere to say, here is the model, here are the macroeconomic factors, and that is why we are going to succeed. So I think so in Vaya's case, we're going through those, and fortunately for us, we stuck to our guns to say we want to go after the Indian consumer who has cash, who wants experience, who's not price sensitive, who's service sensitive, and also the first time globally we kind of invented this model of travel distribution. Right today, Expedia is trying to copy us in China, which is very good, right? And they've learned from us as to what is it that we did right. So eventually, over the last 4 or 5 years that we've been building, in 2008 and 9, we took a conscious decision to say, what are the economies in the world where our model can work? And that's why I said, if you don't understand the macroeconomic factors, you don't have visibility to see where is it that you can go next. Because scale, if you actually spelled out scale, it means where do I go next, right? And how, right? And the how comes from the macroeconomic factors, and then your systems, processes, platforms help you scale to the next level. And fortunately for us, we built the only profitable e-commerce company today that stands on the soil of India, right? And it's large, it's massive. Today we are in more than 100 cities outside India. 1/4 of our workforce today is a global workforce, right? And we are there going and conquering the world just with 3 tools. One is understanding macroeconomics, one is understanding segment economics, and one is understanding how to scale. And I guess as we go through, we will discuss more.
I just want to get some clarity along the way, though. You started as a meta search, but wound up doing travel distribution.
So basically, like I said, we realized that in India, what is the problems that need to be solved, and And I guess, there's a word called as execution, which is hugely used and abused. It basically means, what's not working and why, right? That's what execution means. So basically, when we started stepping in, we realized content aggregation was probably one of the pains. And then we stepped in, we realized there is a huge pile of customers across India, which was the second thing. Then how do you collect cash from them? And just to, so when we took the macro search, meta search, to a need and to a transaction level, that's where we evolved the model.
So, just to kind of paraphrase Sholay, there is an acquisition here, there is a pivot here, all the stories, kahani mein bahut hai. But let's get back to the basic premise that I wanted to start with. Just by show of hands, how many of you think that it is possible to build a $1 billion business selling to the SME within the next 5 years? 10 years, let's get it, 10 years. Straight up,
10 billion.
10 billion.
Otherwise, I don't get there.
You got it. Okay, so that's pretty large. How many of you think it's not possible? You can be honest. It's okay. They wouldn't be in this session. It's tough.
It is, yeah.
Okay, that's why you're here. How to make it? You think it's not possible?
It's possible. The issue is the collection cycles.
Okay, collecting money. You sold $1 billion, but you don't have it in the bank. All right. Any other
We'll talk
challenges?
a little bit about that, yeah.
We'll talk about that, absolutely. I just want to kind of surface some of the basic issues here. Let me stop you for a minute. That's okay, but the premise of the argument here very clear, and I think that's very important, okay? I think that's very important. All that I'm saying is, the premise of the argument here, can you build a $1 billion business selling to the Indian SME? Right? If you disagree, I'd love to hear. Yes. Just 1 second, I'll go back there. Yes.
In India becomes a problem.
Is probably not possible. Okay, so customized product is one issue. What do you think?
Kind of on the same point, to have only one product. Okay, shouting.
I'm going to repeat what you said.
To sell only one product like a Tally and to have such kind of network and to make $1 billion in that is very difficult.
I think, you know what? Okay, to have one product, I'm sorry? Well, we don't know about that. We'll talk about that. Yeah. Okay. Phenomenal. Both these companies have solved that problem in different ways. Okay, so let's go back to them with a couple of issues.
Excuse me.
Sorry. I'm sorry. Yes. Right.
Very good. We'll talk about it.
Absolutely. Absolutely. I'm sorry, Mahesh.
At the back. Excuse me.
Mahesh has a phenomenal question. Are we talking $1 billion valuation or revenue? Revenue.
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 Revenue, guys.
Very clear.
Yeah.
Right? We're not bankers. Okay. So, so that gives me the
Valuation also.
beginning issue for one of the big issues that Shoaib has pointed out in a couple of conversations. So what do you think is the biggest challenge to do that?
First challenge is not wanting to get it as a valuation, but as a revenue. So that's the first challenge, right? And I'm standing here having walked that path in its entirety saying, look, hey, am I starting the startup such that I exit and make my quick money? And I'm not preaching because I've done that myself. So guys, not an issue, but decide that. Because once you decide that you want to, what works against you is everything else. The whole world says first, hey, that's a highly impractical thing that you're talking about. Don't be an idiot. Who's done it before? Comment came through. Look, Tally itself hasn't done it. Valid. So if you don't have that mindset, and let's see, let me tell you what else works with you. The entire software community and I'm making a sweeping statement here, for 25 years of its success was on services. And if you want to service the SME market with services, you can forget about it in the traditional context. Yeah, sure, we've innovated and come into a whole lot of new services which could possibly take you there, which is building on the technology platform. But that notwithstanding. So and I'm not getting into that argument, but let me just hold on to this first one. That I believe from a mindset perspective that once you decide that yes, I will do it because the opportunity exists.
Is everything.
And if that opportunity to read, and I'm taking from what Vinay said, that from an understanding of that opportunity, that does it exist, every data points to that. But as a businessman, are you making that shift? So I don't want to jump the gun to discuss that, but let me stick to the first point. The moment you have first made up your mind, and especially show from today's context, and now let me put the next caveat. Made up the mind that look, an Indian product for the Indian SME. And I'm just taking that to the next level because, again, yes, an American product, German engineering, Japanese product, well, yeah, no big deal. And I'm putting that caveat because I could be a Tally Solutions and say, look, am I going to market XYZ product? No. And why I'm saying all this is not just the fact of a mindset, but it also goes that, look, if you don't have it designed from here with the understanding of the Indian businessman, there's no chance in hell you'll do it. So all these things are absolutely critical. So it's a very passionate point as far as I'm concerned, so you have to keep me calm.
No, but basically, if I understand, you're saying there is not enough of that mindset, or at least you have to get on the right mindset.
Absolutely. And there's a first starting block, and most of us are not willing to commit that. Either we want to get acquired and get out, so therefore I don't want to build a large company. So if I'm not going to want to build a large company, then who's going to take all the questions which you said, who's going to take it to market? How are you going to build an ecosystem? So where is the ecosystem if I've got a fantastic product to even take it and go because I don't have a software sales channel? Because nobody's out there to create it.
Good point.
Biggest cash management system in the country, right? Yes, there is a lot of pain because if there's no infrastructure, no road, there's no tourist, there's no development, right? So is that pain real? Yes. Do you want to understand how that works? We can talk offline. But at least Vaya was the first company in the country who actually set up a national cash management system. That means you can collect cash anywhere in the country and it shows up on our system the next few seconds, right? And then you can do business. Second, distribution. Today a lot of hype in e-commerce is about distribution, logistics. India has broken logistics. So if all of you have traveled in India, do you get a cigarette everywhere in the country? You do? No logistics problems, right? You get Pepsi everywhere? You get Lay's everywhere, right? So I think so, like Shoaib said, problems exist if there is a mindset to accept problems. Problems do exist. There is no process where there is no friction, right? So let me tell you how we practically went about building our distribution system. Today we are in 2,400 towns and cities in the country, right? Anything that you can think of, name of, we're there, right? And the third, I think so I missed one point, was on customization. How do you do mass customization to SMEs, right? Somewhere. So I'll also answer that because it's very relevant to our business. So I'll answer the mass customization and then I'll come to distribution. So mass customization, I agree with you, it's difficult to cut everything with one cloth, right? You can't make every garment with one cloth. So the whole thing that, in fact, anybody heard of Levi's jeans? All of you? Yeah? They do mass customization in the segment of one. Segment of one means iTunes, Steve Jobs. For each one of you, you can customize this to yourself. The whole Apple I was segment of one, right? So Levi's created this whole mass customization model way before all of us did that. So what is mass customization? I'll give you practical examples. So I suppose have partner sitting in Koramangala, he's selling travel, versus one in Jalandhar, one in Lucknow, one in Srinagar, one is selling in Guwahati, one in Silchar, one in Shimoga. Now, their customers are very different, right? And you can't be selling the same New Zealand package to this guy in Shimoga versus what this guy in Lucknow wants. So basically, platforms, right, adapt to needs. And the keyword is to build a platform and not a solution, right? So the platform adapts to the needs. Now everybody in these 2,400 cities, when they open their computer every morning, it's a fresh new thing for them. Design a platform which will say, I want to take travel trends, I want to take number of flights going out of here, number of hotels here, number of businesses here, what are the needs, right? So if you have a platform which is going to take those inputs and you take this customer's past sales history, you'll come up with exactly a portal that he wants. That's iTunes, that's iVia, right? So the whole point is that's how you could do mass customization. Mass customization can also happen at a product relevance, that some products may not be relevant in some markets, right? Mass customization can happen at segment level, saying different types of customers have different payment mechanism, collection mechanisms, promotion mechanisms. Like you can't go and promote to somebody saying, here is an SMS, maybe you need a sales page. For that you may need a brochure that should come out of the system that he can carry, right? Because he wants to close a 150 passenger deal, right? Can't happen on email, won't happen on phone. So how are you going to customize, mass customize marketing, right? How do you give them sales tools, right? So I think so all that is possible if we take a platform approach, right? And coming to the last point on how do you build distribution? Well, you have to walk every shop, period.
That's a good one.
Are you going to walk or not walk? Because the first hundreds of shops you have to walk, because if you don't walk, don't engage with customers, you don't know what they need. Because salespeople cannot build a business. Sales is like water. It will flow in a way it is allowed. Salespeople can't build a business, right? So salespeople can only sell what is, they can't sell bullshit, sorry for the English, right? So it will sell only if it is worth it. So I think so putting a large sales force is not a solution to cover. Okay, sorry.
Okay.
Just got too excited. So putting a large sales force is not a solution to build distribution. Putting yourself in the shoes of the sales force many a times in a year is the solution to build a large business.
Absolutely.
Sorry, quick 2 points to validate what you say. First one is in the SME space for sure, this may be true across, but one is a guarantee that the customer buys from somebody who he has a relationship with. And in a fragmented market like the SME, you need to understand that and understand the dynamics of this. So what we did from Tally, for instance, when we said, look, we appointed 20,000 hardware resellers to become our partners, and we've walked that path for the last 5 years consistently. Simply because the trust factor is built with a local solution service provider. Now what we need to do is be committed to that channel itself. And I'm saying committed, what I mean is that if I get an inquiry and a sale online, because somebody may have bought from me online, I still need to make sure that my channel gets paid. Now this is tough, right? So this is one very important element. The second important element, I'm just taking the issues which you talked about from a platform perspective. When Tally has morphed from being an accounting software when it started today to be a platform for the SME business, what it is doing now currently is being able that from within Tally itself, if you want to buy a module which is specific to your needs, and if you're not happy with it, you can throw it away and buy another module and empower developers across the country to develop solutions on it, is in the same context. Getting these to work, and in today's technology this is possible, I think these are huge, huge changes which have happened, which is going to guarantee that going forward the issues of customization, the issues of peculiarities of SME, notwithstanding the fact that it is designed for the SME, but yet being able to take care of segment-wise uniqueness or customer-specific uniqueness is absolutely critical from a design perspective. So,
It's interesting you talk about that, but I don't want to lose sight of one issue you raised earlier, and we have gone far afield. I want to ask the audience. Mindset, right? How many of you have been entrepreneurs for more than 2 years at a stretch? Straight up? It's what? Half the team? 30%, 40%? Okay. So how much of mindset is an issue? What's in the mind? That's all I'm talking about. Let's not talk about distribution, all that will come back. Okay? But let's just talk about mindset, approach, what's up here. How much of that is really an issue? How many of you think this is a problem? Okay? Can you give me some examples?
It's really all about attitude and focus. That your mindset has to be, if you're going to walk every shop, you've got to go and say, okay, I'm now going to get up, do 40 shops today or whatever it is, and just focus on that.
Absolutely.
I might not sell even in one.
yeah.
Okay, good point.
Yeah, I think it's the only mindset issue. I mean, if I, determined to do something, ways will come up and I'll find ways to do it. And as an entrepreneur, if you are going to build the ways. I mean, you have to create those solutions if there are none. So as Shoaib rightly said, that if nobody is going to solve that problem, how those channels are going to exist? I mean, they're not going to come up.
Good point. Good point. So I'll come back to you. Just one second. He's got the mic. Just one second. Go ahead.
I think talking about mindset, the issue is actually not different when you are selling it to large businesses. Just as you are going to large business and trying to sell, trying to point out what is the value that your product service is going to give them. If you do the same thing, I think the SMEs will buy. Yeah.
That's interesting. You have the mic.
Thanks. I think there's a lot of brutal honesty which we need while we are on that process. And a lot of cynicism in a good way. So if you start the process, yes, people will say that, hey, if you're so smart, why has this not happened already, right? But that's fine, What I think one needs to be honest about is that, yes, that point is valid, but let me see how valid it is myself and know that soon and be honest with yourself. So that sort of simplifies, the whole
So the honesty
story.
is part of the mindset.
Absolutely, absolutely.
Honesty yourself.
Right.
Okay. Any other ideas? Yes.
100% right, the mindset is the problem. But the main thing is, whenever we used to discuss with companies who have scaled up to that particular level, we can see that there is a mentor, there is a kind of person or a pool of person who used to motivate that. There itself, it clearly says that, if you want to become to graduate to the next level, you should have a kind of mindset which can be cultivated only with the kind of persons around you. That is the biggest thing I think NASSCOM has already taken into that consideration.
Thanks. We'll take this as a vote of confidence.
Actually, mindset may be a problem, but I'm more concerned about if there is enough business opportunity in products, software products selling to Indian SMEs. If there is, and if there are some statistics around that, it will beat mindset automatically.
Great question. Before I go to the panel, let me ask, how many of you think there is not enough of an opportunity? There isn't a large enough opportunity selling to the Indian SME. How many of you think that? Okay, great. How many of you think there is? Okay. You know what? I'm not going to throw statistics in this session, but you guys might want to talk.
Yes, I'm so excited.
Please.
Yeah, very good question because, and I want to tell you a small anecdote. 1 week ago, exactly 1 week ago, I had a relative of mine call me. He was just back from the US and he had bought himself an iMac. He had bought his wife an iPad and also an iPhone from the Apple shop. He had a very specific question for me, a specific request. Baba, मेरा tally काम नहीं कर रहा है ना. So, क्या हुआ चाचा? Sorry, I'm just breaking into Hindi because that was exactly what he spoke. And he said, it's not working on his latest the iMac machine, which is on Macintosh operating. So can you help me? I said, yeah, sure, not a problem, because I know that there's something that will easily work. So I called up my office and had one of the local partners go across to him to install the Tally on his new laptop. Now, in normal circumstances, I wouldn't have got a call back. But because this was a call which went to a close partner of mine who knows this a lot better and understands my sentiments a lot better, he called me back in the evening and said, Shweb, do you know that this relative of ours, because a common relative, has a pirated Tally version 7.2? And this is my relative, huh? And he's taking service from me. Yeah? Can he afford it? Yeah? Notwithstanding.
That is true. A large part
Notwithstanding.
of Ghar ki murgi dal barabar is what he said. But
And you know why I'm skeptical about raising this issue on a NASSCOM forum? I'll get advice, make it a cloud offering. And all their problems are solved. Look, he won't have a choice.
you don't believe that?
Well, I'll just, yeah, we have another 1 hour to speak. We can go into that. But just to touch the nerve on this, from a data perspective, what we've seen over the last 25 years, and I can put this on record, that if the same efforts were in another marketplace for 25 years history from a Tally perspective, we would have definitely been a $1 billion company. Similar companies in different markets are much, much more. But having said that, what is his issue? What is it that you can change? You've written it so far. And I can guarantee you that yes, while technologies are evolving, elements of reach out, elements of correction are kicking in because we are seeing the difference. We're seeing the difference that, look, if it was 1 in 10 piracy, today it's 1 in 3, 1 in 4. And it's not just about people having changed. Multiple conveniences are happening, multiple efforts have happened, which are making this difference. Yeah? So to cut a long story short, not a solved problem, yes, let's accept it. But getting there, no questions about it.
Okay, so that's the resounding acceptance of the market. I just want to add one statistic. You know, one of the arguments we heard about the Indian market is that realizations are very bad. Not collections, but price points. Price points are very bad. I can tell you from our own experience, we sell at a per seat per month, I'm sorry, cloud offering, right? Per seat per month, higher than most of our competitors in the United States. We actually get those realizations and we are prepaid, so people pay. Large companies pay ahead of time. I don't think that's such an issue going forward. But to go back to another thing that you pointed out, you were talking about macroeconomics. You were talking about reading the world and then reading your world. Can you throw some light on that?
Look, my philosophy is that a great entrepreneur has to be a great economist, right? And if you don't understand the shell you're living in, it's very hard to identify and spot where you are on the map, right? You don't know where else the traffic is going to move. Are you going to move? You're like this then, you know? So you may hit, miss, and most likely you'll get hit multiple times to the point that you will die, right? And if you are surviving, it's that's all you're doing then, right? So the whole point is, my belief is that there are everybody, you know, and I don't want to make it an economics class, everybody must put effort into understanding the word economy. I'll tell you, people from Harvard don't get it, right? So it's not because there are no books on economics. It's how do you relate those concepts to the real world? How do you map them as they're moving with zip pace? They did not get frozen in the book, right? And how do you relate with them from opportunities? So here are my 3-4 points. If you will remember them, probably something to take away. See, economy is formed out of 4 things, and we need to be very, very categorically understanding this. Economy is about 4 things. One is the government, one is the policy, The third thing is the people, and fourth is what they produce, right? So we have government, right? Then you have the banking policy, kind of policy, the people, and then what they produce. And when you cut the government, if you think this as a square, and this is the first block of those square, the four, if you cut them vertically, that's called as cabinet ministries, right? What we call sectors, right? Sectors in the economy. You heard sectors in the economy before? Yeah? You have telecom sector, you have, travel sector, you have agriculture, you have metallurgy, you have, different. And for each one of them, like there is a manager in the firm, there is a cabinet minister, and then there are companies that operate in that sector. They have their own reserves and finances, and then there are employees and what they produce, right? And sometimes when we say, and the total things across sectors, what is produced every day is called as GDP, right? You've all heard GDP going up to 8%, 9%. So what basically it means is some sectors may be growing at 11%, some may be degrowing. So it's like the weighted average of the entire economy. So first, you have to say, boss, am I in a sector which is going up or going down? Screw the economy going up at 8%. How does it benefit me? Right? Are you in a boat which is going down or is it going up? Right? Because if it is going down, you are nobody who can hold fort to say, I will not go down. Right? Because there is less and less demand. When a sector is going down, what does it mean? It means the products produced by that sector are becoming hopeless. Nobody needs them. Today when we say Greece is going bankrupt, what does it mean? That means basically what people produce in Greece is not valuable anymore. Nobody wants to consume it. They don't have money, so if they don't, companies don't make money, there is unemployment. If there's unemployment, government cannot tax those people, and eventually the tax is the only asset the government has. So if governments cannot tax their people, then governments go bankrupt. That's what is happening in Greece right now, right? So if you do not understand where the hell I'm on the map, am I in this sector? Which sectors affect my sector? One should know that, right? If you don't know which sectors affect your sector, then you don't know what to track other than yourself. So when you open Economic Times every day, the one thing that I'm saying is, if somebody in Ludhiana is putting a luxury factory, if I'm selling there a product which is underpriced, probably I don't understand that well. I should go in deeper. Is he right or am I wrong? It gives you a perspective from that newspaper every day that if people in Ludhiana are willing to sell a Mercedes, am I selling a product for 5,000 or 50,000?
Great point.
Right? So how do you decode that paper every day? Right? So if you are not going to understand that, you don't know, then next thing is scale. Which direction should I move on the map? World map. Right? You have to say what are the sectors that help you and draw quickly the global map, say, okay, these are the 15 economy. By the way, there are only 15 to 18 countries in the world that matter. Rest of it is like,
Hopefully we are one.
Yeah, we're one. So,
Thank you.
so if you draw those 18 things, then you know the world.
Yeah. But see, I want to take that to you. Your business is very different. Or is it? How important is large economics?
Very, very, very important, but for different reasons, Kishore, in the past. Whenever a sector is not doing well, we've seen our sales go up in that sector.
Absolutely.
And I can bet on this now, simply because now I've understood that look, if business is happening, who the hell cares about buying a system and worrying about tracking information, inventory details, blah, blah, blah. ठीक है यार, get the bloody order, chase, get the money, get it running. I'm not saying that it's an efficient way.
No, and I think so it's very relevant. Cost becomes the prime concern.
But the moment there is a slowdown of some sort, and everybody slows down and says, hey, let me get some efficiencies running in here.
Absolutely.
So I'm just saying, let's put the context of the data point. Yeah, and it's important.
Brilliant.
And the second most important one, and this is relevant from the upside of the SME business. Now this is a learning which I got from listening to an IIM Ahmedabad professor who had come in to give us a lecture. And he was talking about why he believes, and this is more of a cross definition, that the SME is the market which will definitely grow the next 10 years. See, everybody sees data from a perspective saying, yes, 20%, 30% GDP contribution, it's at 18% now, and whatever. But what struck me home, and I thought I should share this with you all, is that he gave us the insight saying, look, today, salary levels of employees has gone up tremendously over the last 15 years. Correct? Nobody can dispute that. And what's likely to happen because of the kind of employment which is going to continue to generate, that people who come in now and start their first job will start, by the time they retire, will have 20 times more disposable income and salaries. So you can eat your heart out. You could hope that you are part of that generation. Correct?
Spend of that generation.
Yeah, to have the spend of the generation. But what does that imply as far as economics is concerned? What it means, and if you look back, look at yourself, and you look at it that, hey, the moment everybody has bought their basic requirements, the basic needs of maybe buying something for investment, buying some house, buying a flat, doing whatever, and buying their car, what they're looking for is differentiated purchase, meaning when I buy something, how unique is it? Because everybody wants something different. And what that is going to set off in the marketplace is that boutiques become stronger and stronger. Customization becomes stronger and stronger, to the point which Vinay was saying, look, how are you going to customize at that scale? What that means is service providers need to exist. What that means is, if I'm a large distribution network, I need SMEs to service me, either to sell or to produce. So that's the dynamics.
You think that's possible? It's possible to just build a generic product and go out and sell? Yeah, we can hear you. Go ahead. Absolutely. Absolutely. So the point, if you couldn't hear it, is he's saying you should build a product but be flexible to be able to pivot. But I want to point out, that's a different thing. Because at any point, at one point in time, you're addressing one segment. You're willing to change that over time, which is very important. That flexibility is very important. But I'm saying generically, is there
I think so, Kishore, the
Sorry.
point is also to say you want to be in the direction of the tide or opposite to the tide. While everything works, means you can always be in the ocean, right? So I think so if you're in the direction of the tide will take you there. So your scale of growth will be huge, right? While you're right that, everybody need not have the tools to figure out the micro trends, figure out whether this is it that will work. And I think so we should not take those deep level bets. As long as, one of the things I learned in Wall Street on stock picking, if you want to be the best stock picker, just see if the product of that company sells, period. No money, no money.
Good point.
That's it.
Okay.
So I think so,
I want to move forward. Unfortunately, we have only 12 point whatever minutes. But there's one third point that they made that I want to go back to. Building for scale. Both of you have built organizations that scale outside your own organizations. So can we hear some of that and then come to you?
Well, I'm still doing it. So basically, I think so, just to elaborate that question so that I get the question right, is you want me to talk about how do you scale the organization which will scale the business, or?
Very specifically, I would like to understand a couple of cases where you made certain decisions that if you had made differently would have stopped the scaling. That would give us a sense for what we want, right?
Okay. So I think so one of the most fundamental decision we made was that we, comes down to mindset, I was willing to go against the tide. While the world was chasing .com, I was chasing .cash, right? So I think so. It was an idea which no VC bought, right? It was an idea that I pitched to 70 VCs. It was an idea that nobody bought. But within a year, we had grown several hundred crores in turnover, tens of crores in profit, and then people thought something is wrong about this or right about this. At least we should write on this, right? And I think so. That was one. Second was is where do you make your investments in technology? Because you're like very thin. You're like 5, 6. We were like 19 people when we were doing a turnover of 400 crores a year, right? And the thing is, then where do you deploy the next? Because it's also distraction. It's not just stuff. So we were very clear that a lot of people came to us, you can sell also this one more thing to the SME, right? And I came from a product philosophy of saying, you can take one Pepsi and sell to the whole world and make a very large company, right? And my philosophy was I will stick to one product for 3 years and I will just keep nailing it down. Still, I'm not number one in the country. And we were number one seller for every airline in the country. Every airline where I used to sit 6 hours outside to meet the sales executive, the CEOs were visiting our office, and they had no clue why we were growing like a weed, right? But one thing everybody knew was, I want to ride this bus, right? And I think so, some of those decisions, and when we went against them, when we introduced 3 products, 4 products, and we slowed down, we struggled because we were going less in the market, talking less to the same customer. We were trying to say, I know it, and trying to make a best product, putting all those trends in place, same company, same people, right, didn't work, right? So I think so, the fundamental thing we learned was don't change the mix that works. If visiting the customer gives you the next big idea on his need, that's the only way you should discover need, right? Don't change the mix. If you think staying focused on one product at a time and building and owning that is a big idea, don't change the mix. Investing for scale, there is nothing like more customers, right? But not at the cost of servicing the previous customer. So how do you build that balance, right? That was another thing we learned, that we went so far out, we were growing at almost 104 customers a day, right? And I was like every day on the sales gun, we want to do more, we want to do more. And like our back office was throttling, please Vinay, stop, we can't handle this more. And we screwed up. So I think so we have lots of sets of screw ups, but some things I learned is don't change the fundamentals on why you succeed. It's like Ford Motor Corp lost their position to Toyota because Ford was made saying we make good cars at less, right? So the formula was good cars at less. When Toyota followed the same formula, good cars at less, they became global leaders. So please don't change that mix.
What do you think?
Just to add a very important point, which is, see, all of us who've started a company, grown a company, we have 20, 30 odd people as a core team when you start. And when you want to scale the business, when you want to move, you're going to start wanting to have large teams and in different geographies with different functions. And we forget that we need to make sure that there's a common glue to make them work together. And I believe that is highly trivialized problem. It starts with that as an entrepreneur, I have a goal. Sure, I can articulate my goal to you, and you can get excited and say, yes, we'll all do a $1 billion company. But can we step back and just thought for a minute, what's in it for me? Yeah, sure, he's going to be secure in his job. Yeah, sure, he's going to get his increments. He'll get his bonuses. Isn't that enough? My friends, let me guarantee you that's not enough. Because what that individual is looking for is beyond. He's looking for, and I'm not getting into the social dynamics of giving an equation, but hey, what's the purpose of this company? When he walks into a social environment, why is it going to be recognized that this company is making this difference? And whatever the difference is. And that's not trivial, because that reputation rubs off. Besides multiple other factors to enroll people, which is on a continuous basis, and I'm not getting into that as a complete element, but for me, people are the most critical. If we can crack that, if you can't sell your dream inside, there's no way that anybody is going to buy it outside.
That's a great way to put it. That's a great way to put it. It's a great line. Okay, on that note, we've got 5 minutes. I'm going to take some questions. Yeah, can you run the mic there, please?
Sure, you went through a merger, right? I just want to know the mindset issue then at that point in time.
I just want to retire after that.
No, I know that. Point is,
Just kidding. Yeah.
when you join hands to scale further, the 1 million or 1 billion target, what do the two of you get together behind closed doors in sharing your vision and your passion and then getting it to your people?
See, the challenge is that it's a marriage, and in any marriage, and let me look at it like this, the stronger partner or the more dominant partner, obviously this was Tally here, and to understand that now when you are going into a new house, it's no different. There's a give and take, while at the broad level statements all very fine, but you want two teams to work together. They're two different cultures, they're two different backgrounds, and most male tend to not understand it. Because you're not going to a new house, right? Everything else is the same for you. Sorry, I'm
Most male don't.
right? And those ladies who are here who are married will empathize very well with what I'm saying. Yeah? But the context is that because cultures are different. And to work together, and many times it's a challenge because you need to be committed to the cause and to be seen to be so. It's not just enough that you are committed, but are you demonstrating? And are you now playing it fair with all concerned? Because prejudices will exist. I will be more comfortable working with folks whom I've been working for and I've groomed. How are their understanding and how are they remaining committed? Because the battle is not yet won. Sure, some monies and some comforts have been established. And which is why I said, if the purpose was just that, well, it's going to show, sooner or later. So I'm very, very clear that understanding, and therefore, yes, you need to take the extra effort. But today, the fact that I can stand here and speak on behalf of Tally just is a signal that, yes, I've earned that. It's not come just because there was a merger. There were multiple mergers, multiple companies merged. But to be the spokesman for the company needs to, that I have to understand. And why I need to understand is because I care enough for the dream. And that needs effort. So, I don't know if I've answered you in all.
I get your point because we are also trying to grow certain way in an entrepreneurial way, bringing entrepreneurs together in one of our ventures. And obviously these are issues that come in behind closed doors.
Let me tell you what society does.
It doesn't happen outside, selling the same vision of 1 billion, but it does rub off sometimes inside behind closed doors.
Yeah, and let me tell you what works against. Everybody, all society tells you that it will not work for you. Because most entrepreneurs don't succeed when they've spent 15 years doing their own business to go and work in another company. So everything is working against you. Your wife will tell you that, your friends will tell you that, any other customer will tell you that, what the hell are you doing? So you've got to take this call alone. So I'm just saying that's the environment you'll have to combat constantly. So you better have a strong understanding of that.
So one other question.
No, I'm sorry,
of the
I have to
SME.
stop you. We have only 2 minutes. I'm really sorry. I'm going to take 3 more questions. Let's start.
Hi, I have a question. Like I think it's more related to the problem of selling to SMEs, which I forgot to ask in the first place. The question is that, suppose you're creating a new category, suppose you're trying to create a product which is not existing, you know there's a problem, and you're trying to sell to people in unorganized sector who doesn't understand technology very well, or who don't adapt technology that well. How do you tackle that problem? How do you try to, like suppose, for example, as you said, that it happens through contacts. So how do you even get your first customer to make that contact, to reach to the second customer, to reach to the third customer?
Yeah, first you have to be sure that that problem actually exists in the customer's mind and not just in your mind.
Yeah, I think so. There's another way to look at it is when we went to bus operators, we actually built the first GDS for bus operators. And every time you would go to a bus operator and say you need to be automated, and he would say no, he doesn't need it. But today 70% of them are automated. So I think so. What Shoaib said is to establish that is there a need, and if you are saying there is a need but he doesn't understand, then you need to persist, right?
Thank you. Right here. You can pass on. Okay.
Vinay, could you talk a bit more on the distribution side?
Yeah.
You mentioned you're going to pound the pavement, but can you be more specific? Can you walk your journey?
Okay, so I'll tell you. I think so. Distribution is direct. A product is a journey between a vision and a need which will evolve. And to be able to connect that whole thing also to the context of the entire problem, to say how will this sell, how will this, because the product has to be designed thinking it will sell, it can be marketed, it can be built, it can be so many numbers, and this is the need. How do I prioritize that? I think so that is one. Second part of that is stay in a defined area with a beta set of customers who will give you good feedback, and I'll tell you before you realize referrals will start, right? And that's where your second customers come from. That's your second level of distribution that comes, is referrals. And the third level, like Shoaib was saying, was putting this whole process in an organized way to say, where all do I want to be present, and then identifying what kind of mindset people will need to be able to understand the opportunity this product offers them. So that also has to be productized. That, see, salespeople cannot sell. They have to be able to see the face of the customer very clearly. My customer looks like this. And once that happens, and that is productized, then I think so it's just a matter of going and doing road shows with the right set of people.
Here's the mic.
Yeah, hi. When I think of SMB market, the first things that come to my mind are industries like microfinance or low-cost airlines or even cloud. I mean, a lot of them, the results are mixed or more hype and not exactly real-world benefits. So as followers of macroeconomics, as both of you have mentioned, what are the other sectors where you think there are opportunities for SMBs in India? Just a few in your...
Okay, I can tell you 5, but you have to build one of them. So actually the largest SME business in the world is Google. I hope you all know that, right? Google has the largest SME customers in the world. They spend $10 with it, $20 with it, right? So Google is not built by corporations, it was built by SMEs, right? And still gets continuously built by SMEs, both on the content side, which is blogs, right? And both on the advertising side, right? Which is the local businesses. So opportunity in India from the SME sector. In fact, we think e-commerce is a big opportunity in the SME sector. That's the one we're going after. We think we did a rough mathematics to say we will be able to sell 60,000 crores worth of goods to SMEs, right? Travel is not the only good, right? And we've invested heavily over the last 6 months. We've acquired 2 companies who were solving a similar problem last week, and that is another one. If you pick in the services space, there are so many restaurants, right, which need automation. There are so many hotels which need automation. There are so many car operators which need automation. There are so many coaching schools which need automation. There are so many businesses where students say, where can I find the best coaching school I can decide, I can serve near my home, do that, and then there are more education materials around them. There is a huge business. And how many students are there who don't go to coaching classes? Every year the system produces more and more of them. It's perennial. Who's going to go own that space? I'm happy to fund if you are willing to do that. So
Yeah, and here's how I can help you to do it. Go into our website, check for Tally Shop, see which are those segments which have been covered, decide you can either join the bandwagon or choose one which is not, because the product is now all pervasive, it's across all segments, and there's very clear, from a platform perspective, opportunity existing across.
Absolutely.
Great. I'm sorry, they'll be available for conversation. I just want to make a quick announcement. After lunch, there is a session here with Vivek Wada in conversation with Naveen Jain. Next door, there is a conversation between Tarkan Manar and Sridhar Vembu about how to build product companies in India as different from being done in the Valley. So we have a whole lot of interesting sessions. Thanks a lot. Let me just make